Some trips are felt beyond words. No one connects you to the Caribbean like Princess. Princess Cruises, sailing the Caribbean. Book now.
Of the many legendary tracks in the UK, Oulton Park might just be among the most difficult and fearsome to master. Only the skilled or masochistic will be left to say, "Please, sir, I want some more," as we get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 15 Sport Class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Ewan O'Leary. And behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. Ewan, we're here for the third time in these 2 weeks, and already we've seen just how tricky this place can be.
Yeah, we certainly have, both in terms of how difficult this circuit just is to drive on your own, but also in terms of overtaking, how difficult the racing is around here sometimes. There are chances to overtake, but especially in those higher classes, it's very, very difficult indeed to overtake. And that means that, well, we got the races that we got, especially in the pro class last week. But it very much sets the tone, because last time out we were at Long Beach, where the story was rather similar. Next time out we'll be at Suzuka, where you'd imagine it will be similar too. So this is very much that part of the season where there's challenging overtaking and challenging just driving around this place.
Yeah, and then, of course, Road Atlanta kind of known for that as well. Then it switches completely around, where Daytona should hopefully offer plenty of opportunities to try and make passes on one another. But yeah, it's very much a theme here in the middle of the season, and track position going to be oh so important, especially because there's a championship being fought for, and Daniel Harmon is currently at the top of that. Sheldon Zaharachuk is behind by 110 points at this stage, which isn't insurmountable, but he's going to need a big turnaround if he wants to see himself really take that top spot. Lee Binkley tied with him in that position, so both of them really hoping to see Daniel have maybe a bit of bad luck for them to be able to catch up. From there, look at the tie between Lynn, Mike Sachs, and, well, almost a tie there with Costas. I guess he's about 10 points behind them, but very tightly packed in for that fifth position. And then it's only another 20 points back from Costas down to Anthony James there. So your top 10 still has some serious fights to try and decide at this stage. But the fight out on track is just starting, as we have, I think, a couple drivers left that may be able to take laps. I see Peter Yerxa still hasn't set one quite yet. Dave Douglas has one lap left, which I think he is just completing right now. And this is Kevin Hamann in the 247, who is currently sitting in fourth. Only his last lap counted, but boy, did it count for something, because that's top five here today. And as we said, that is half the battle, just trying to get up in the upper positions.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go as far as to say more than half the battle, maybe. It is so difficult qualifying around here to qualifying badly around here to actually make your way up through the field. And that's what we saw in the pro class last week. Some top contenders having some good speed, but finding it difficult to come through the field once they had started so far down the back of the field. Sheldon Zaharachuk is currently in 15th place in the sport class right now, second place in the championship, tied with Lee Binkley. That's a disastrous qualifying from him, although Binkley's not done much better. In ninth position, the championship leader Daniel Harmon is continuing on with the great season that he's having, because he has qualified, it looks like, on the pole here, unless Kevin Hamann can do anything late on.
And it's not a hugely long lap around here, so 0.3 of a second from Daniel to Anthony is a pretty decent gap. There you can see Kevin wrapping up his qualifying since his laps are done, and just kind of pulling off to the side since he feels like he's had enough practice. Peter Yerxa eventually got that last lap in. Unfortunately, it did put him last on the field as well, into 32nd, which we'll take a look at that entire grid in a little bit. But 32 cars have put a time down. I'm kind of curious how much today's race will be down to mistakes because of that difficulty in overtaking you. And this is the sport class, so we might see a few more than we typically see over in the pro class.
Yeah, I think so. you know, it's a circuit that, as I say, is difficult to pass on. However, also very easy to make a mistake. So if you do manage that, then yeah, there are absolutely opportunities for those to come through. Just depends how many of those mistakes we're really going to see here, especially up the front of the field. We might not see too many from Daniel Harmon, but let's find out. This is how he got his pole with a 1:31.9. Coming in towards turn one here, very sharp apex there. Just clips it before trying not to run too far out wide over the AstroTurf, which is rideable, but you will get an off track. Downhill, straightening out the braking zone in time for Cascades. A late apex required here as well. Actually quite an important corner for your run onto the next straight here, all the way down into the very fast left-hander of turn 4. Staying tight to the left-hand side, not using the road on the right really, because you want to set up for turn 5. Dive for that apex, dive for the low side. It's banked here. It's a bit like a mini oval really at that end of the racetrack before entering one of the first 2 chicanes. Interesting line there from Harmon to try and straight out the braking zone as much as possible. Dives for the apex there, and would have liked a better run actually out of that corner, but he was pretty fast on the way through it, so we'll get away with it as far as his lap time is concerned. And down into this second chicane. It's this final corner you're looking at for your run here. Pull it all the way to the left, grab a late apex and get the power up without running too wide before you get into the final sector. The very fast Druids corner, right-handed, double apexed. As you can see here, there's the first. Just drift away from it, there's the second. Manage it over the crest of the hill there before you get into Lodge Corner, the final turn on this racetrack. And out the other side with a good run. Daniel Harmon with a very, very good lap time. Not only the only driver to get into the 131s, but a good 3 tenths quicker than the rest of the field.
It could prove important because we also expect to see at least a little bit of lap traffic play a part, so he'll want some buffer by the time he gets to the other end of the field and starts to put them a lap down. With just about 2 minutes left, we might as well go through our starting order for today's race. And up at the top of it, you see Daniel Harmon, as we mentioned, on the pole. He'll have Anthony Carbone Jr. next to him, as Christian Braun will start from third. Kevin Hamann is then in 4th position. Nick Francis starts the inside of row 3 with Curtis Crummell flanking him. Matt Trollitt, good enough for 7th today, sees Randy Lervold starting from 8th, as Lee Binkley will be P9. And then Adam Gerling will round out your top 10. It's Tim Thornton starting 11th and Mike Saxteen in the 12th position. Michael Anneman will be in 13th as Joseph Evers joins him there on row 7. It'll be Sheldon Zaharachuk starting 15th and Dennis Lynn in 16th. Sheldon a little bit farther up in the points, so he'll want to try and make some of that progress we've been talking about. Philip Rami will be in P17 with Antonio Da Silva in 18th. After that, Darren Carlin starts 19th today. Caleb Tolar in 20th position. Outside those first top 20, it's Johan Nye 21st, Christopher Costas in 22nd, Alan Hales 23rd, and Daniel Corbett in 24th. Quarter century mark will be Ed Trippett. He's got Walter Tilson to his outside. Dom Bernicus will start from 27th spot. Dave Douglas, he'll be P28 with Anthony DiVincenzo in the 29th spot. Ryan Mullaney in 30th, and then Ankerberg Zone and Peter Yerxa rounding out our 32 cars here today. It is currently about 22 Celsius on the track itself, 21 air temperature out there for those on the non-metric side. That is 72 Fahrenheit on the track itself, and thankfully not much wind to worry about, because this is definitely a track where you don't want to get blown offline. It always feels so narrow to me here, Ewan.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that adds to everything we've already talked about here with the difficulty in overtaking and also difficulty in just driving this racetrack as well. So narrow around here, as you mentioned at the top. Proper old school racetrack, this one in Britain. This particular layout has only been in force since 2003, but the original circuit was drawn up at this facility in 1953, very long time ago indeed, and that character has very much been retained down the years. There's no tarmac runoff. As I was saying last week in the Pro Class race, This is very much more the style of a British racetrack. I know where people gravitate towards Silverstone, and you look at that and you think that's what a British racetrack looks like. That is the centrepiece, of course, in the country in which I live. But the majority of the circuits are not quite like that. It's much more like this, much more narrow, much less room for error. And as you pointed out last week, Joe, much more, sort of a somewhat American style to some of these racetracks as well, with the lack of runoff and etc.
Yeah, I think it gives us a good touch point between the two countries, and maybe that's why we see a fair number kind of go back and forth racing on either side of the pond. But for now, our North American drivers will have to try and get a taste here of a British track, a real traditional British track, and see how they fare at the end of it as they line up and get ready to go. I think Peter's the only one we're waiting on. Everybody else is out there, so they got to the grid rather quickly today. Hopefully that means everybody is extremely eager to go racing. And it looks like Peter might actually start from pit lane, because I'm not sure that he gridded up. Yeah, he is in the pits right now. So we'll see if that helps him avoid any sort of incidents. The first lap around here often sees a little bit of trouble, especially in those chicanes on that first lap. Drivers have got to make sure that they give each other space.
Yeah, indeed. Got to be careful on this opening lap, especially. That's where things can go wrong easiest, of course, anywhere, but especially here. It's actually not the narrowest pit straight in the world. The pit lane is, but the straight itself is not. It's when you get out of turn one and you come down towards Cascades for the first time where there normally is trouble. You just got to try and avoid that, and that's part of qualifying well as well, but that's over. That's in the past. Now you've got to survive lap one as the first objective in this hour-long race.
60 minutes with at least one pit stop. And as the green flag comes out, Daniel Harmon gets a pretty good jump. He's going to immediately take to the racing line, switching off to the left-hand side on the entry down into Old Hall, as the top three all get single file, but farther back in the field, it is still very much side-by-side racing. Now it's down into Cascades, and so far it seems like a decent start. I think there was one off from Christopher Costas.
There's a couple of little off tracks here and there, but as far as big crashes go, I don't think we've seen too many. If there has been one, it's been a long way down the back of the field where I can see some shifting of places, but in towards turn 5, everyone's been very cautious here at the front. The top three have stayed all where they are. Only Curtis Krummel has moved more than one position inside the entire top 23.
Amazing stuff, and as they come through the chicane portions, what happened to Walter Tillerson? Oh, and that was something that I had completely missed at the start. Not even getting to start the race without some severe damage. Corbett is the other one that got the bad end of the stick with the nose completely coming off.
Yeah, and you know that's a problem when you're down the back of the field. You can't just presume that the leader might have gone out the final turn and gone early. You've got to be careful. Costas did indeed spin through turn number 1 there. And he drops a long way back in the field. But yeah, unfortunately, some of those guys trying to preempt the start down in the background. That's exactly why you don't do that, because you can get yourself into some trouble very, very quickly. And as you say, they haven't even crossed the start line before they've got significant damage down the back there.
Good news for them is that there is a spare car waiting in pit lane, but that's going to need an extra pit stop if they stop now. They may have to try and make it to about what we believe will be the 15-minute left to go before they're able to 15 minutes into the race, I should say, before they're able to make a stop and make it to the finish without an extra one. As we look a little bit behind the leaders, this is Johan Nye, though, and as the car comes out of Lodge, it just does not want to stay pointed the right way, and he has to wait for almost the entire field to go.
That's the problem with making mistakes on the opening lap as well, not least the crashes that we talked about before this race gets underway, but also waiting an age, it feels, to get yourself back into the race again. If you do spin there, it's difficult that final turn as well. It is slightly blind through there, depending on how far around you get to spin. And Johan Nye having to get himself back going again quite a long time later. And again, it's that place where you might find an overtaking chance, but we'll see how many of those we get over the course of this race. That final corner definitely to one to watch out for.
Definitely running away here from Christian. And you can see a bit of a train forming behind. We're also checking out the battle for 10th. Lee Binkley being followed by Mike Sachs currently. And one thing that is kind of interesting is that the top 5 have not changed positions yet. They're all still exactly where they begin this race. A lot of the drivers down below have swapped back and forth a little bit. Some of them, I think, due to mistakes. I see Curtis Crummell down 3 from where he began, so that's not exactly the start that he wanted in today's event. A little bit farther back as well at Sheldon Zaharachuk. He comes into Lodge Corner himself. He's chasing on Michael Anneman currently.
But he hasn't made any places so far. That's exactly where he qualified. And he's more than 10 seconds off the leader already, is Zaharachuk. So that's the problem for him. His best result, his drop result rather, is an 18th place finish, I believe. So this is at the moment counting towards his score as well. And when you've got Daniel Harmon leading this race, it's not to understand that he's going to have a very big championship lead at the end of this. Lee Binkley being down in 10th place is going to extend it at the moment by 140 points. It's going to be a massive championship lead of 250 points if it stays the way that it is, because the guys who are close at the moment to the leader, Nancy Carbon Jr., who's all the way down in 9th in the standings, he's more than 400 points behind already. Christian Braun is there, Karen Hamann, they're a long way down as well. Certainly not in the top 10. Christian Braun's in 19th, Hamann's in 20th. So this is a dream scenario for Harmon as well, really, having these guys so far back.
Works out extremely well. It does look like Hamann is getting ever closer to Braun here. Question is, where can he try and make a move as they head into turn 1 once again? Oh, that was off the apex by Christian in the pink machine, but he does not lose the spot quite yet. Kevin's still having to wait patiently as now they plunge into Cascades.
He's under a lot of pressure, Braun, here. I mean, I know everything we've said so far, and we'll say it again about the difficulty of overtaking around here, but you've got to think that this pressure is going to fold at some point. As I mentioned time and again last week, though, it's about striking early. We're 5 minutes in now. He has to be at that start of the race, which doesn't really count. It's a different game anyway, really, at the start of the race. But he's had a few minutes now to defend Braun, and he'll be getting more and more comfortable as the laps go on, as we see Ryan Mullaney having trouble at the final corner, this time getting on the power too soon.
Off with the tires he goes. Bernicus down into Cascades, and we saw this a lot in the pro race too. Drivers just can't seem to get the rear to grip up as it plunges down that hill. Thankfully, there is a lot of runoff to the outside, but you lose time as you try to make your way back onto the track. This front group, by the way, I checked, it goes all the way back to 13th. Remember, this is for 3rd right now. So this is a long line of cars before you have any sort of major gap between vehicles.
Yeah. You look at the gap for 2nd and 3rd there, you see a very, very large gap. You think, well, this field is splitting apart, but as you further go down, it's not splitting apart. Curtis Crummell's had a very bad run at the final corner there. Not entirely sure why. Lee Binkley got past him, and then Mike Saxton got straight past him. So there is now a break in the group, just as we've said that, but it's come from a Curtis Crummell mistake, I think. He's continuing to have a pretty poor start to this race.
Yeah, he's now down 7 positions from where he began in 6th spot. So it's looking like he's going to have a long day in front of him, but you never know. There could be others that make mistakes. It does seem like that is going to be the defining factors. We've seen most of our changes of position due to others having offs or slip-ups as we continue to watch Lee Binkley down here in 10th position. That is Sachs in front of him in the sort of teal and orange car, and then that's Joseph Evers behind in the blue and white machine. It's a short run coming down into his lap chicane, so just not enough time Evers to make an attack.
There'll be groups like this up and down the field at this early stage of the race. Nearly 10 minutes in, Hamann still not been able to make an impression. He takes a little bit of a different line through Druid's corner there, and that's a good way to start with this, because he's never going to do it just following Braun, and he has got into half to fend into the final turn. That might be able to set him up on the next lap, but he's not particularly got the run coming onto the front straight here. This is a good start though from Hamann. He isn't letting this race get away from him, in the sense he's not letting Braun dictate what he can and can't do. He is moving around in the mirrors, trying to get something to happen here.
Behind them, a bit of a battle brewing between Francis and Trollet. And Francis is going to get to the inside, will overtake down through turn 3. Nicely done by the 510. So that's one down. Now he's going to start to approach Hamann, who no doubt is causing those behind maybe a little bit of frustration. He's been sitting there so long, unable to overtake. Maybe they could think they could do better.
Indeed. Look at Hamann again there. Very close into the chicane. Now he's getting somewhere. So now he's got in the grass there is Christian Braun. Surely Kevin Hamann's going to have a chance now. He's not got the exit required. He was getting in the mirrors of Braun so well that actually his own exit was compromised as well. And he still can't get past, but that was the closest he's come. And that was pretty encouraging there, actually. If there was a more inviting corner up next, other than that first chicane on the back straight, then he might have had a chance of going through.
Quite work out this time. It also slowed them up enough that Matt and that 510 purple machine regained any time lost in his side-by-side racing. So he's now rocking up to the back of Kevin. Will he maybe put him under pressure as Kevin thinks about it once again down in the lodge? That sharp right-hander offers a tempting opportunity, but you've got to be so solid off the turn, as we've seen multiple already spin up the wheels and either have an off or nearly go into the grass as they try to get on the throttle. All down through the first corner. Once again, it is getting quite stacked up. They are already 7 seconds off of second place.
That's a remarkable early gap. Oh, and Hamann's off now. For all his good work at trying to get past Braun, he's thrown it away there with a little bit of a run wide through turn 3. That trolley goes straight through into 4th position, and Hamann's got to make sure that Nick Francis stays behind as well, which is fine, down into turn 5. But that just shows the risks. That's why you don't see many people actually properly going for these moves and properly trying to work them out, getting in the mirrors of the driver in front, moving left and right, changing your lines, because it does come with a set of risks, and you've got so many drivers stuck behind you like that. Those are the risks that can really prevail, and Hamann, instead of gaining that place and moving on up, is now even further back than where he was.
I'm going to keep an eye on Trollet though, because that's 2 positions within roughly a lap of one another, up into P4 now. Seems to be on a bit of a charge at this stage in the race. He's still got plenty left to go, and as soon as I say that, unfortunately, I seem to have cursed poor Matt. And off he goes out of Druids. Now, did he actually get the wall there as he's backed it up? He's trying to find the gear. Now he's going, and I do see a bit of damage on the front.
Well, that just shows how close a mistake can be around here. Just as Trolley moved up into 4th position and was looking, of course, therefore for maybe a better result than he was previously. Now he's dropped down, and he is down to, well, outside the top 20 now. So this group has changed radically now. Christian Braun's got a bit of a gap back, and Kevin Hamann's going to be able to close back in again. He's been given a lifeline really by this mistake. He just clips the inside curve there, Troy. I mentioned earlier it's a double apex corner, and you do need to sort of grab the first one and grab the second, but when I talk about double apex, I don't actually mean the curves, which are quite steep at that corner. They can unsettle the car and spin you around, as we just saw.
And it's just a tiny mistake that kind of built into a bigger one, it felt like, as we now watch Binkley a little bit farther back in this group. That's Dennis Lynn. It's so close behind him, taking a big look down into his lops, then reconsiders it now that they enter into the slow chicane. They have still got quite a stack up behind them. I see Krummel in there, Anneman, Zaharachuk as well is part of that group. It's tending to be what seems to be a theme here today, with lots of trains forming.
Yeah, definitely, and see whether these do have that sort of explosive moment, if you like, where something happens in the group, whether that be an overtake, a mistake or something, and then all hell breaks loose, because that is generally how these groups change. And it's like this, and there's little desire to actually try and make the overtakes. It's pretty difficult to actually see any change in the group, but Lee Binkley is trying to keep Dennis Lynn behind. Lynn looking fairly much like he wants to try and get through here. Joseph Evers right behind Max Saxton, although I think those two have just changed positions actually. Saxton is up now 4 places off this start. To be fair, Evers up 5, but Max Saxton is a bit higher up than he was before.
I was just checking real quick to see. It wasn't within the last lap, it looks like, so must have got it while we weren't looking with all the other action. He's still having to defend Joseph Evers, trying to attack, and Binkley, with his fight with Dennis Lynn, he's changed gears and is now focused forward as they take that gentle curve coming up into the braking of Britons and then try to get down onto the throttle, up and over the hilltop before it's back downhill into the second chicane now, into his lops, and still nobody able to do anything. The one driver that I think really enjoyed all that battling was Christian Braun. For all the pressure he was under, he's pulled away by about a second and a half. Oh, and Zaharachuk has found the grass.
It's going from bad to worse for him. He was already qualified. He'd already qualified quite a long way down in 15th. Now he's lost 3 places compared to where he started. And he's lucky that there's a bit of a break in the group right behind him there. Somebody goes wide in front of him and he tries to follow through, but you've just got to give more space through that second part there, I'm afraid. Zaharachuk didn't do that. You've got to remember it's such a tight chicane. I don't think Zaharachuk is going to get much sympathy from the stewards for that one. He's cut across the nose there of that Porsche, and he's spun round as a result. His day is just getting worse.
I think that may have been Animan that made that contact. We'll see if there's any chatter from race control, which there have been no penalties. I give them credit since the start of this race. It has been a bit messy in places, but for the most part, it's not been between different cars. It's just lone errors, as Dennis Lynn hoping to avoid that fate here in this group. That's Lee Binkley just in front of him. And then that's Joseph Evers that we're focusing on in the blue and white machine as he weaves his way through the Britain chicane. It's a decent enough exit. He shouldn't be under attack, although briefly defends on his way down.
Yeah, indeed. Well, this group continues to be the largest at the front now, with that bit of a respite really for Christian Braun at the front of the, well, outside the front of the field in third place. Daniel Harmon and Anthony Coburn Jr. obviously a long way in front of the rest, but this is the large group, and this is where Binkley has to start moving forward for me. He's got them stacked up in front of him, Joseph Evers and Mike Saxton. He's got to try and work on a pass, but at the moment he's more interested in keeping Dennis Lynn behind, and you can see why that is, of course. Lynn is actually closer to Binkley than Binkley is to the others, of course, but if he's a championship contender this season, Binkley's got to be moving forward, and as it stands, he's just losing another 140 points to the championship leader.
There's a bit of a look back there from Lynn on Binkley, but he's not able to get by as we continue to follow Sachs. Oh, and that was off from Evers, just dipping his wheels into the dirt. He gets away with it, but he can't too many times as that left-hand side barrier is very close on the inside. If you get spit out, you're almost certainly making contact there. In fact, he's recovered quite quickly and is once again putting the pressure on his Sachs as we go side by side between Crummell and Lynn. And I think Crummell's going to have the inside on the first part of the chicane. They make contact through there. That's going to slow all of them up. More contact behind as Animan reaches the rear of Lynn. Toller is able to back up to keep from becoming a part of that accordion. But things have suddenly gotten spicy here in the mid-pack.
Well, they certainly have, and Lee Binkley is to be breathing a sigh of relief as well, because he's no longer got Dennis Lynn right behind him. Must have been a mistake from Lynn, or some sort of audacious move from Crummell to get those guys separated, because they were absolutely locked together at one time, but no longer. As you can see, that's a big gap now. There goes Hammond looking down the inside again of Christian Braun, who will have enjoyed those few minutes of nobody in his mirrors, at least nobody that close, but Kevin Hammond, who was challenging him so strongly in those first 10 minutes, is right back there again.
That was only about 3 or 4 laps. Kevin's done an incredible job catching that back up, and that certainly does not help Christian, as that off there at turn 1 will make him vulnerable once again. Philip Ramey Another one that has gone too far. Oh, no, with a huge impact there at Britain's. The car impressively still going after that.
Yeah, indeed. It's like the ungainly rejoining the racetrack there, but nobody around, so gets away with it. Look at the gap's been closed there. 1.2 seconds in the last lap but one. And that's not down to Christian Braun's inconsistency, but Kevin Hammond's pace. Look at that. And Christian Braun, he's going very sort of consistently quickly in the lower half of a 134. But Hammond is the one able to go a bit quicker. That last lap, of course, not as quick because he is now stuck behind Christian Braun. But Hammond has got a decent chance now. That wasn't a great run through Knickerbrook from Braun, and here comes Kevin Hammond.
So hard to pass into Druids, and I think he knows it. He stays behind him. Doesn't try to send himself, but a mistake has slowed him down.
Oh.
3-4 cars pile into the accident out of Druids. Who is going to be the one to pick up the pieces? It looks like Lervold is able to make out with P3, but he may be damaged from contact. More cars still trying to come away. My goodness, that happened extremely fast.
Yeah, it certainly did. Said 4 involved. I think Lervold's got some damage as well, or maybe he's just coming in as a reaction to it anyway. But he pits from third now as well. So Adam Girling gets up to third place in a real change at the front of the field. Girling up 7 places now to move up into third. But what a pile-up that was. Just shows the responsibility he holds as the leading driver. I don't think Braun was hit by Hammond on the way. Well, was he hit there just on the way in? He was a bit wide and then he slid, and just no chance of avoiding behind. It wasn't Lervold who was the first to pile in there. I don't know who it was in the purple there, just piled straight in. And in live pictures as well, we've got somebody off again there, down through turn 4. That's Hammond again. So his tyres will be very warm, and he spins around all over again now.
Might have some damage that also is compromising the handling of the car. I went and checked. Girling started that lap in 7th, finished it in 3rd. So it's about the most ideal sort of situation you could have asked for, although maybe would have liked to make the passes instead of just inheriting it. Meanwhile, Lee Binkley, another of those, also promoted up a number of spots. He'd like one more, as Joseph Evers is in his sights, but he backs out before he gets to Druids.
Indeed. It's a gift really to some of those in behind, like Lee Binkley, that incident there, who has been able to come through on all of them and get himself up into 6th place in Binkley's case, but everybody in front of him as well really benefit from this. I mentioned Adam Girling's not even got anybody right behind him right now because he's got such an advantage. And by the way, Christian Braun now is all at sea after that incident itself. He is not enjoying himself out there. Curtis Krumo gets down the inside. Now Dennis Lynn is on his way past as well. Michael Anneman is coming on the outside. He gets in the grass and he has to collect that slide. So Braun's not going to lose all the place at once, but he needs to come in here because that car doesn't look quite right.
Wow, I thought Anneman was going to take out both of them there, the way he's put the rear first into that corner. But yeah, he got away with it. And I'm with you. Christian probably has not got the best of cars right now. And we already saw at least one other driver come in and take that free repair. That was Lervold, I believe, and get back out there. Just make the best of the situation. Unfortunately, that'll likely put you back into the traffic of those who are a little bit farther down that haven't pitted. And we still got a long time before the pit window ends. So you are stuck between a rock and a hard place if your car is looking like Christian's right now.
Yeah, indeed. It's just completely changed the complexion of this race as well. That incident at the front of the field. I mean, the names at the front are not the same. Michael Anneman gets a penalty, by the way. Not sure what for quite, but he's going to drop from 10th. There is the incident again. Just everybody piles in, unfortunately, here. All 4 of them getting a piece of it. Randy Lervold even getting unfortunate damage through that as well. Nick Francis was the other, by the way, who had over a minute in the pit lane as a result of this. So they've all dropped down a very long way, and it's a real shame because I think it was just just a little bit of contact there from Hammond onto Braun. I think there was some slight contact, and it's caused that mess.
And I checked it out. Animan's penalty was due to the contact with the 630, which is Sheldon Zaharachuk. I think that was the one in the chicane. That your opinion was that it was kind of more on Sheldon. So I guess the stewards took a little bit of a different view on it, but the damage has been done, and now it looks like Animan is back out on the track, although I still see a black flag, so I wonder if he sped in pit lane just to make matters worse, as that was an interesting line on the way into Cascades.
That was Peter Yerkser there, who was down the grass and very nearly crashed into Animan, which should have rubbed salt into the wound there. To be fair, we only saw one angle when I commented at the time, and it wouldn't have been the one that the stewards made that decision from. If Animan, to be fair, was recovering to that apex and was sort of not making the corner there, was sort of going past the apex and into Zaharachuk, who had made the space on the inside, then you can absolutely understand the penalty there. Zaharachuk, of course, had his nose in front as well, but when you're on the inside like that, it's your responsibility to stay to the inside and make sure that you don't drift out wide into Zaharachuk. So if Animan did that, then it would be absolutely penalty deserved, but it's quite hard to tell that really from this angle, which we saw it from. Stewards will have had a very thorough look at that, of course.
Exactly. They've always got a lot more tools at their disposal than we have on that one as we check out Mike Sackstein. So many drivers under pressure would like to be able to relax, but if they are unable to, maybe Ace Cruise will help, including Princess Cruises, which is PCA Sun Racing's title sponsor for 2026. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places they visit, and the friendliest cruise at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles, September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on the screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or 833-679-2188 on your phone to speak to a PCA travel concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. So when we last looked, Mike Sachs was in a bit of a battle and currently has run away from Everett since we last saw that car. So good news for him, as Alan Hales seems to have run into a couple issues. Let's see. Oh, and was that car in front of him going slow? Because that was a strange move.
Hard to tell from behind the hill there, but let's see here. This is Daniel Corbett going, whoa, too fast into the final corner, much too fast. And he runs wide. He was actually at a time the best placed driver who made a pit stop. He isn't anymore, as you might be able to guess, but he was at a time running quite well. Here's Sheldon Zaharachuk, meantime, recovering from his spin. See, he doesn't gain anything out of the fact that Michael Animan was given a penalty for their incident. He's still lost the time as Sheldon, but he's at least caught back to the group. I think this was the one he was with before anyway. Obviously, it's all spin to the part, whatever. Christian Braun's had his incident, etc. But he's at least got them all in a row in front of him now to begin picking off again.
So it looks like Randy Lervold has stepped into that position you were talking about of the highest driver to have pitted. Joseph Evers nearly came out ahead of him, but just about missed. So those two top drivers at this moment that are able to make it to the finish of this race. Thornton in the Shark liveried machine chasing on Tolar. Excuse me, is that a lapped car actually? Yeah, that's a lapped car, I think, in front of them.
There is one involved in this. There's 5 in the group, but there's only 4 actually battling for position. I don't know who it is at the moment, who is that lap car, but there is definitely 5 involved. There's a black flag now for Christian Braun as well, by the way. So yeah, his stage is going from bad to worse, really. He's not at the speed in these groups, as we've seen already. He's been involved in an incident through the penultimate turn, and now he's got a penalty as well.
Yeah, and it was for that incident that he's been penalized, it looks like. So kind of not a shocker there. If there wasn't any contact between himself and the car behind, then that's all on the number 4. And now he's going to fall down farther after he was looking like maybe potentially snagging himself a podium here today in the early stages. You can see Trollet has also pitted in, but he's not going to return. The highest driver to have pitted at this stage. De Silva, who's farther down, I think is not only pitting but serving a penalty. I think, as I saw a black flag for him at some point there. This is Daniel Harmon leading Carbone Jr. The gap now up to about 4 seconds, but that's nothing compared to what's behind them. All the mess that has happened on the track has meant that P2 to P3 is 22 seconds now.
Yeah, it is partly down to the incidents and accidents, but I think we've got to give these two a bit of credit as well. I think they've absolutely got themselves head and shoulders above the field here. They're going to run as long as they can into this stint, I would imagine, but they're going to encounter quite some traffic as they're doing it because they're running so far in front of the rest of the field. I mean, you only have to be down in 16th place now to be a minute off the lead already. We're only half an hour into this race. Yes, there's quite a few drivers who've made a pit stop now. In fact, more than half the field have actually, even before the halfway mark, which is a bit unusual. But yeah, Harmon and Carbone have got to get some credit because it's not only the incidents that's cost that group further behind. It's also the speed that Harmon and Carbone have got that is putting them a long way ahead of the rest.
Tell you what, Zaharchuk, and like you said, some of it may be down to the pit stops here, but he's still up 5. He started this race in 15th. He's sitting in 10th, and he's got 2 cars directly in front of him. Not too bad considering the troubles he's had so far in this race. But this is Tolar in the sort of tan machine that is leading this trio right now, doing a good job of staying focused forward, not letting the 2 behind him make any mistakes, at least as it sits now.
Indeed. These battles are going to work themselves out as this race goes on. They're going to feel a little bit false at the moment with the pit stop sort of halfway through. Hard to quite know where everybody's going to be at the end of all this, but Caleb Tolar, Tim Thornton just in front of Sheldon Zaharchuk here. Championship contender, of course, who might well consider coming in rather soon, although the problem that we always talk about in these races, having a heavier fuel load, getting yourself out in traffic further behind, especially here, is going to be the big problem. So Zaharchuk is just going to have to bide his time and hope that he can get past these 2, I suppose, as Thornton looks down the inside of Tolar into the final corner and just put him off enough.
That's going to put them side by side down into turn 1, which is a very fast corner, but it looks like Thornton is going to manage to get ahead at least by the apex, but he's not fast enough, and Tolar fights back, retakes the 8th position. Zaharchuk had some momentum, but has no place to take it.
It's a little bit tentative really on the outside from Thornton there in towards turn 1, and you know, you've got to be decisive and aggressive if you want to make a move around here. A bit too tentative really for someone trying to make an overtake. Tolar going to find it very easy to defend if that's what he's up against here. Oh no! Thornton breaks too late and he hits the back of Tolar. Zaharchuk only just slips past on the inside there, and Tim Thornton is going to drop outside the top 10. That was a unforced error really. Might have been thinking about what happened earlier in the lap. I don't know what he was thinking about, but he missed his braking point here. Just a little bit wide through turn 4, and it has that knock-on effect. It means you get on the brakes later for turn 5. Zaharchuk only just squeezes through, and Thornton the only one in the end to drop down.
It's honestly lucky that Jaws machine did not take a huge piece of bodywork off of the car ahead, but there's probably still going to be damage on both machines. And with so many fast corners around here, you don't want that. You need the downforce, especially from the rear of the car, to keep it nice and steady. Sachs over Crummell over Binkley for that 4th position. All still owe us a pit stop. Joseph Evers right now, the highest up driver to have taken a stop. So he's been in and out. So unfortunately, Lervold, who was in that spot, I think got into a little bit of trouble with another car. I don't know if that's going to result in a penalty since he redressed the position, but he definitely had a big coming together out of the final turn.
Well, there's somebody in the gravel just in front of these guys here as well. It's not Adam Gerling, I don't think, who was ahead of them in the race. Oh dear, it's someone without a front bumper as well, it seems now. Don't know who it is, but that's pretty bad news. Down at turn 5, Saxton, Curtis Crummell, Lee Binkley all able to continue on as normal. We'll get a replay of that in just a moment, but shows you what a difficult corner it is. Just 2 incidents in the last 3 minutes through this corner. It's Peter Yerkes by looks at it, and this one looks completely unforced as well. He's got even less people around him than what Thornton did just a few moments ago. Into turn 5. He brakes somewhat late, he just goes straight on. And you've got to try and turn in there, even if you're going to spin, because that will happen and you go straight on into the barrier.
Yeah, he took those tires pretty hard, so no doubt that's the missing nose that we saw. And the result of it, yeah, there it is now out of the way. And we've got Peter coming in, I hear on the radio telling everybody that he needs to come in to take those repairs. Johan Nye has just been in and out while we were watching this as well, but we return to the battle for 4th, taking a little bit of that runoff on the exit of turn 1. Mike Sachs making sure to hold on as best he can. In fact, that bumper not only was removed, it went for a bit of a ride, it seems, on the return to the track. How much can Mike withstand the pressure from behind? He's done a good job in this race from 12th position. He still needs a pit stop, but I've seen him not only in the thick of battles, but leading these groups quite some time. I'd say he's been very solid today.
That's what you've got to be really when you're at the front of one of these groups at Oulton Park. You've really got to put the normal concern that you have when you've got people right behind you like that in such close proximity. You know, normally there's concern about whether you're going to lose the place or whatever. You've got to put that onto the back of your mind, because you've got so much... oh, well, Saxton doesn't get a very good exit out of there. He's not really listening. As Curtis Krumel gets a good exit out of Nickerbrook, and he's going to be on the inside in time for Truids here. If he can stay there, he dives quite deep though, and Saxton's going to get it straight back again. There's contact. How did they survive that? Saxton with the curve on the inside, Krumel with the contact they had. Somehow they both survive, and Krumel's up to 4th. That was a pretty remarkable bit of driving from the both of them. And as I say, Saxton not remaining steady and remaining in front of them. He comes into the pit lane in response.
Now, remember, there's no tires for him to really take in this stop. There's not enough time for that to make sense, but it will cool them down a little bit. Hopefully help him out when he returns. Joseph Evers, I see coming through Druids right now. Looks like Thornton will go by. Tim still needs a pit stop himself. Sachs finishes up, and it looks like he is now moving. Evers is onto the main straight while we continue to watch this battle for 7th place between Tim and Sheldon. No change, although carrying much more speed. Sheldon could have an opportunity to try and catch up to him. Doesn't quite look like it. I can report that Evers and Sachs emerged almost nose to tail from the pit exit.
Yeah, just shows you actually maybe Saxton going to be a little bit further down than I was expecting actually than what we were seeing, because as I say, the battles at this stage do feel a little bit false because the pit stops haven't all happened yet. And Christian Braun's in front still of Mike Saxton at the moment. And Trippett is there. As you can see, in 10th position now. He's 15 positions gained on where he started, but I do believe he's still got a pit stop to go here, as have I think all of the top 10. We're still not nearly done with pit stops, and there goes Joseph Evers. Was he down the inside? Oh no, he was just looking on the back straight there, trying to get past Mike Saxton, couldn't do it.
Yeah, they're the next one behind this group that duo that we're watching. Braun, by the way, I'm showing him having served that penalty. I don't think he's had an official pit stop yet, so just the drive-through. He'll still need to come in, and that will help out Trippett somewhat. In fact, Trippett just announced that he is pitting in while we continue to watch Sachs versus Evers. He tries to guard the inside, right middle of the road, and Evers taking the shallow line, unable to hold on. So they will continue on, inheriting the position from Ed Trippett, who now takes his service. But the fight is on between what has become 11th and 12th.
It is for now. It's going to continue to change, of course, but Saxton survived that earliest attack, and so, as I was saying earlier, before he actually ended up giving up a place to Curtis Krumel, it gets easier from that point, or it should do. Again, you've just got, as I was saying at the time, you've got to put it to the back of your mind that you've got someone so close behind you. If you hit all your marks and you drive as you can here at Oulton Park, then it's going to take a very quick driver to get past you. In that scenario, it needs a significant time gap per lap to actually make the pass here, as long as you hit all your marks, as long as you just, do your normal lap. Now, that is easier said than done, of course. Mike Saxton is under a lot of pressure here at the moment from Joseph Evers, and it's easy for me to say, and just easy for me to sit here and say you should just ignore it, but it is there. Evers is there, and he is putting the pressure on, so it is more difficult than that, but nevertheless, that's what you've got to put your mind to here. And now that Saxton's waved off that first attack, I'd say it does get easier from this point as you get more settled with that driver behind.
Kevin Herman, his recovery, currently in 13th. Third of those who have pitted too, but a ways behind Evers, who's the next position up, 18 seconds actually, to that next car. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the adage that we hear in a lot of sports, that the best defense is a good offense, and I feel like that is quite applicable in today's race, to just focus on what you're doing and keep trying to put in those good laps. And Daniel Harmon certainly has been doing that. He's still at about 10 seconds ahead. I noticed that Carbone had made a mistake on one of the laps, but got away with it. But definitely lost about 2 seconds in a lap because of that. So we continue to watch. That is, I'm trying to see who that is. Just who we've got is Caleb Tolar. Has he had some problems? Whoa, Zaharachuk. Both he and Zaharachuk at the same time going into the corner, and Sheldon has the lesser of the two problems. He's able to get going faster. Rear wing missing from Caleb's car.
Yeah, far less damage as well for Zaharachuk. Nothing like the damage that Caleb Tolar's got. So he's rather gotten away with that, and I don't think he actually came into pit in response. Meantime, speaking of pitting and responses, Country Carbone Jr. is in here. Can he stay in front of Dennis Lynn? This is quite important for the race. He can. Now, he will need his pit stop to be shorter than Daniel Harmon's by at least a second or two, and he will need a very good outlap here, but can he, while he's out on a different part of the racetrack, he's in clearer air, will Harmon come up on traffic, and will Carbone be able to do the very unlikely undercut for this race victory?
Yeah, 8 seconds would be quite miraculous, if I'm honest. So I doubt it, but like you said, you never know. Unfortunately for him, Harmon seems to be in relative clean air right now on my track map, but we're watching Christian Braun, that's Christian Braun in the timing that is just taking his pit stop. This is a battle for P4 between Carbone Jr. and Dennis Lynn. Lynn still needs to come in for his pit stop. So yeah, that was crucial for Anthony to get that job done, or else he would have been held up here by the 124. Harmon also just pit in, so our leader has decided to essentially answer Anthony.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do from Daniel Harmon, even if he could have gone longer, which I don't suspect he can go much longer anyway. He needed to make that pit stop just to keep control a little bit about where Carbone is, but in the end the gap was indeed too large. I didn't actually spot that it had grown so much in these last few laps, but clearly it has. And look at the gap he's come out with there. That is a very, very large gap. I mean, only about 10 minutes ago or so, 15 minutes ago maybe, gap was 3 or 4 seconds. Now it's up at 13. Harmon's stretching his legs now.
Yeah, some of that is due to that mistake that Carbone Jr. had earlier on in the race. But Tim Thornton, now one of the last cars we're waiting on. DiVincenzo, I think, also still owes us a pit stop. Otherwise, pretty much everybody has been coming in on this most recent lap. I think I saw Sheldon Zaharachuk. Very curious where he is going to wind up in terms of positions gained. Actually, am I just seeing this right, that Anthony DiVincenzo is up 18 positions right now? That's who we're looking at on screen, the 420 car. He's finishing his pit stop. So yeah, he is going to be up at least 17 as Kevin Haman goes by. Dave Douglas is now going to overtake him. I don't even want to say that this is that bad of a thing for Anthony DiVincenzo. Up 15 now that he finally emerges onto the track, kind of sandwiched between a couple other cars.
Yeah, very nice work indeed. It's got Dan Carlin and Matthew Trolley, I think, around him. And there goes Trolley on the inside line. He's up to speed. He's on the racetrack already, and he's going to go straight past So that will be a little bit damaging, but it's nothing too bad. Trolley moving up to 14th position. DiVincenzo's got to get himself up to speed before anything else. But as you say, such a great drive through this field from DiVincenzo. So many places gained at a place where it is just so difficult to do that. I believe he is the biggest mover forward. There are some other notable ones. Dennis Lynn has made up quite a few places in this race. So has Dave Douglas, actually, who's now up to 12th. Don't know if he's stopped yet, though, as Dave Douglas. No, he has. He pitted he pitted away from the others, but he's moved forward very well too.
I'm showing up 16 right now. This is Tim Thornton, who went longest of anybody and is now pitting in. So I think all these drivers that we were mentioning are going to gain one more spot since they might be in range. Nope, he is going to get out before they reach them. Tim, let's see, how is his race going in terms of positions? As he started in 11th, and it looks like he is going to maybe only be one up as Zaharachuk makes his way past him and back onto the track. A little bit of side-by-side action, although I think that is simply Sachs overtaking a lapped car, and he's bringing along Joseph Evers with him here. Now down to 16 minutes left to go. Everybody has completed their pit stop, and if you are going to make the pass, you got to do it on track.
Yeah, indeed. That's the perhaps exciting point about this stage in the race again. As we get towards the finish, you know that there's no pit stop coming to save you. I don't think we had it as much in this race, actually, as what we did in the Pro Class last week, but I did feel in the first half of the race last week that people were waiting for the pit stops, really, and then sort of deciding what to do after that. Don't think we really saw that so much tonight, but either way, they definitely know now that this is it to the end, and they've got to go well. Got to make the overtakes on the racetrack, as you say. Here comes Joseph Evers, looking down the inside of Mike Saxton there, but he's not going to be able to do it at the penultimate corner. Saxton just seems to be making a couple of mistakes here and there, though, which is costing him as Philip Ramey goes off the road there down at turn 3.
Yeah, we caught one of them off of Knickerbrook there, that Sachs had gone 4 wheels in the grass but lived to tell the tale as Evers closed in on him. Before this gets too heated, I do want to mention that we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises continue as our PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for 2026. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places they visit, and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles, September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on the screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA Travel Concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. Our biggest mover is indeed so far Dave Douglas, sitting in 12th from 28th on the grid, but Mike Sachs is not done too shabby. Here at the sharp end, up 6 spots. Joseph Evers up 7. And Adam Gerling, 4 of his spots we know came from a big accident in front of him, but he's still gained 7 today. He's on the podium.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to be in the right place at the right time. You've got to benefit from what goes on in front of you. Can't really hold it against him that those guys in front of him crashed. He picked his way through the crash after all. It wasn't easy. There were cars all over the road when he arrived at the penultimate corner there. He was able to get himself through it, though, and into a podium place. And, you know, since then as well, he's cemented that by pulling away from the likes of Lee Binkley, who's a championship contender in this championship as well. Binkley's recovered himself quite well as well, actually, here in this race. He's up 5 places from where he started. And at the moment, he's going to be getting 280 points to Daniel Harmon's 350. And so the gap will extend at the front of the field, but it will be 210 points now. At some stages today, this lead could have approached 300 for Daniel Harmon. At least Binkley has been able to keep it well below that.
Going from our onboard from Kevin, we can see Tim going completely off the track there at turn 1, and that has allowed him to get right up to that rear bumper, shows himself down into Shell Oil Corner, but is not near close enough for that move into there. On the top of your screen, that is Sachs versus Evers. Last time we saw him run through Knickerbrook, he had a bit of a mistake. This time, that looks a lot smoother.
Indeed. He has been able to keep Evers behind for a while now, as Mike Saxton doing a good job here in 6th position. This will likely be all these two can get from this race now. They're probably not going to get up to 5th place Curtis Krummel unless there's a mistake there or a battle between himself and Lee Binkley. And they're probably not going to drop back to Dennis Lynn either unless they fight quite hard themselves. There's only 12 minutes to go, so it's likely that this is the battle for these two. And again, as long as Saxton stays on his line, stays consistent, he'll be able to keep Evers behind. And Evers getting a little bit erratic in some of his moves to try and get in the mirrors here.
Can't let himself get too flustered in this situation. The coin goes both ways. And for Evers, he's got to try and just be patient, hit his own marks, see if a mistake from that orange and teal car opens the door for him. I was kind of checking on the leader to see where the traffic was. Unfortunately, for anybody hoping to back him up, that won't be the case. He's made his way through the front of it and still holds about an 11-second gap. This is Dan Carlin down in 13th, and that's Trollet just behind him. He's certainly not had the day that he was hoping for after he went off and hit the wall coming out of Druids. He's down 7 positions, still working to try and get past P13.
Yeah, indeed. This shows you just how far it actually drops back you in. It drops you back, sorry, in a mistake, because it's not just the seconds lost at the time, but the amount of time you have to spend regaining some of the places that were lost and the time that costs you in turn. Oh dear, that's close into the final chicane. So they're very nearly running into Dan Carlin, who again might be the last opportunity for Trolley to gain a place here. Is Tate Douglas close enough? Well, he probably is if Trolley gets through very, very soon, but can't afford to wait too much longer if he wants to get back into the top 12. And there you go, that's a gift. Dan Carlin goes wide and Trolley moves straight into 13th.
It feels like Druid's corner has been diabolical today. We've seen so many cars either spin or just like that go a little bit wide on the entry, maybe over ambitious trying to find the grip into that double apexer. And checking back with Dan Harmon with about a third of a lap lead over Adam Gurley, who is in P3. That is the distance he's managed to put between himself and the rest of the field. Carlin doing a very good job staying calm in that situation, as the car could have speared or jerked across the track, and just kind of kept it pointed in the right way and eventually cruised his way out of the grass and back to the pavement.
Yeah, indeed. Excuse me, rather unforced error there we saw a couple of moments ago. It just shows, as I was saying earlier, very easy for me to say, just stay on your line and don't succumb to the pressure, but much harder to do that in reality. Although Mike Saxton has not shown that much really in this stint of the race. He did fall to a mistake earlier when he was defending from somebody, but in these final moments of the race with Joseph Evers right behind him, he has been more than good enough to stay in front here for some time. And they're probably on to 6 or 7 laps to go now. Not entirely sure how many there's left actually, but because Daniel Harmon's so far in front of them, but not too many now for Saxton to hold on.
And my estimations are showing 7 laps, but yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out. As Sax is currently running in 6th position here. Evers doing everything he can to try and shake that off of him, but just not able to get his way past that brightly colored machine at this stage. In fact, one thing I will credit Mike for is that he's not letting Joseph get near enough to him that he could get a whiff of something, excuse me. As that is another important aspect of this, is just making sure that the car behind never gets within range that they could potentially attack. As we come back to Kevin in the 247, and that is Tim Thornton just in front of him. With a driver that could have been looking at a podium today, probably ruining what could have been, but if I recall, that one was less his fault, because I think he was involved in what happened in front of him with Christian Braun.
He was involved with Christian Braun eventually. He was looking really promising actually in the early moments of this race was Kevin Hammond in terms of looking to make moves and whatever. In the end, he couldn't do it. And actually, his ambition he paid for in the end. Actually, as he dropped down to 5th, he could eventually get back to the back of Braun and attacking him again, but unfortunately caught up in that. And I'm still convinced there was a bit of contact. Maybe there wasn't, but I'm still convinced, looking at it, that there was a slight bit of contact between Hammond and Braun there, which just sent him deep into the penultimate corner and spun around in front of the rest. But it wouldn't have been intentional at all from Kevin Hammond, and it was pretty unlucky for him really to get caught up in the aftermath really. So unlucky really for him, and I hope it doesn't discourage him in future rounds, especially in 2 weeks' time, from Jaluka, from being the aggressive driver that trying to make moves that we've seen here tonight, because that is the entertainment we want to see. It's bad luck, I think, that's taking him out tonight rather than his approach to this race.
Better to have given it a try and failed than to not try at all. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. And now we watch Lee Binkley with Curtis Crummell just behind him, seeming like we've gone from the various trains that we had in the early stages to now everybody's kind of split off into duos here. This one not quite as close as some of the others in the mid-pack, about a second apart, as Lee seems to really be picking up the pace at this stage. This is definitely more representative of kind of what we've been seeing, with about half a second between Evers and Sachs. Will come to the line to tick off another lap. But to your point about the distance, Dan Harmon seems to already be on the backside of the course between the chicanes just as they're crossing the start-finish line.
Yeah, indeed, just over 5 minutes to go, and still these positions haven't changed. By the way, I don't know if you've seen this message, Joe. We've received a message from Race Control that there's going to be an extended post-race review of the race start. So, I mean, all results are provisional by the time we leave these broadcasts and these races anyway. But they're definitely unofficial, provisionally unofficial as well here today, because they're going to go back and have a look at the race start as well. I mean, so much was going on that race start. It's surprisingly orderly actually from the front guys, but maybe there is something to look at there that we didn't spot off the beginning. And there was certainly that big smash up down the back end of the pack as well, which took out many drivers before we really started here tonight.
Yeah, and the only drivers that are close to the front that I could see that affecting is Dave Douglas and DiVincenzo, since they started well at the back. Otherwise, unless somebody caused the checkup, maybe more in the mid-pack, not sure that it'll change too many of the results higher up the field based on at least what we've seen. Could be something that we are missing, though, at this stage, as Sachs pulls another tenth or two away. And this is Nick Francis down 17. Oof. And the number 55 running in 22nd spot. He's a lap down. In fact, only 19 cars remain on the lead lap with Harmon.
And still Hammond not able to, Kevin Hammond further down, not able to get past Thornton. Sachs still staying in front of Evers. This is staying as it is now, and as I mentioned in last week's broadcast in the pro class, for some of these fights that went down to the end, in fact the race leading fight went to the end, you've got to start to put that pressure on, put that doubt in the mind a bit earlier than sort of going for it on the last lap. It's not one of those races, or we might see it at Daytona, where you see moves trying to be made on the final lap of the race. You're not going to see that here, or it's not going to work anyway. You've got to work on moves from longer out than that, and that's what Joseph Evers has not done so far in this race. I believe there might be 2 or 3 laps to go at the end of this one for these guys. Harmon's just making it over the line now, so probably 3 laps to go. But Evers needs to be sort of getting in the mirrors, putting more pressure on earlier than this. At the moment, it's not looking likely that he's going to get to 6th.
That was our leader behind Anneman there. So that, yeah, I had noticed this before our director had pulled up this replay. So a bit of a scary moment. And further proof that it is not over until that checkered flag falls, especially in racing. If you're the lead car, there can be things that happen that are completely not your fault, and you have to stay on your toes. So Harmon might have a lead of about 15 seconds, but he cannot rest. This is what he saw coming into that turn. Yeah, that thankfully the car kind of went away, but that has got to caused his heart rate to raise up for a split second.
Yeah, and as you point out, he could have spun the other way right into his path. I mean, that's exactly what we saw with the Christian Braun incident earlier, you know, when 4 guys piled in. So, you know, it's absolutely not unreasonable to be a little bit apprehensive now, you'd imagine, for Daniel Harmon. I think if anything like that happens again, he will just slow down here, because he's got 17 seconds over the rest of the field. It's a remarkable gap that he has over Anthony Carbone Jr. Now, Adam Girling is even further behind, but Harmon won't accept anything other than the race win here. It looks like it's going to be his 4th of the season. The only time he doesn't win at the moment is Sebring, and even then he finished in 5th position. He will slow down as much as he needs to if that means securing this latest race victory.
For reference, it is right now half a lap between 1st and 5th place. So yeah, Daniel Harmon has been running in another gear. Francis with an extra pit stop, it looks like. He'll eventually make it out, but he must have been one of those that needed to pit in early due to some damage, and that's why he's taking another short little splash and go. And on his merry way, Curtis Crummell here versus Lee Binkley for 4th, just outside the podium. This is going to go right down to the finish itself, and I think they're going to get 2 more laps, though, because I see Dan Harmon on the backside of the course with about a minute left.
Yeah, I believe he's going to get the white flag this time. Philip Ramey again has trouble with turn 3. We saw him go straight on down here before. Now he's gone spinning around into the inside wall now, which is unfortunate. He's a long way down the field anyway. Just over 30 seconds to go. Harmon is indeed going to get to the line in time to get us another lap. So I believe this race is going to be the same as both races last week. We'll wait and see whether the challenge class tomorrow is a little bit slower, or whether they'll get all the laps in as well that we've seen. But Harmon has put on such good speed here that he has effectively enforced an extra lap. If Anthony Carbone Jr. was leading this race and Harmon wasn't here, this race would have ended at the end of that lap, because he's crossed the line with 19 seconds to go, and Carbone is indeed 19 seconds behind him.
Interesting. So hopefully everybody did put enough fuel in to get to the finish. This is now effectively a victory lap for Daniel Harmon here at the very end, and hopefully he can make good use of it, not make any mistakes. He's got a little bit of traffic there, as that is Douglas and Trollitt. Whoa, and gonna miss the chicane is Dave Douglas. He's definitely got a slowdown penalty from that, but Trollitt was quite far off himself. That was a very strange one.
Yeah, indeed. But not too long to go now, and what a relief to Harmon as well. 4 drivers right in front of him. This is what happened, by the way. Dave Douglas still 12th, but decided that blowing straight through the chicane was a better idea. Maybe he was right, but he'll have an almighty slowdown to serve there. But as I say, maybe he was right to just go straight through the chicane. Harmon will be pleased this race is over on this lap, though, because look at the traffic that's in front of him. Thankfully for him, he doesn't have to deal with it, as the checker flag is not far away.
I think that's about 4 different cars. Some of them, I think, battling for position in front of him. As you can see, a little bit of a defense. And that is not going to make things very fun, but now that he's out of the final corner, he has no worries at all. Daniel Harmon was in full harmony here at Oulton Park. He is going to take the win in our latest race for PCA Series 15. Anthony Carbone Jr. may have been a ways behind, but this is a solid 2nd place for the number 16 car.
Yeah, it's a great drive from Carbone. As I said earlier, the fact that the gap's so large to 3rd place, I think some credit for his speed does have to go to Anthony Carbone Jr. here. Not able to stay with Daniel Harmon for the whole race, but he stayed with him for a good half hour, which is a lot longer than the rest of the field. And Adam Girling, for his ability to just survive in this race, should be complimented as well. He's going to get a podium out of this. Yes, a bit of luck on his side, but a deserved podium in the end, gaining 7 places to get there.
You've got to be there to pick up those pieces, and that's exactly what Adam Girling did. Incredible job, as Mike Sachs will collect that 6th place ahead of Joseph Evers. The gap between them at the end, 0.2 of a second, as Joseph kept him honest all the way to the end. Trollitt with his strange move coming through the corner. is going to finish ahead of Dave Douglas, who has served that time penalty, is now way behind him. And Matt, unfortunately, not going to make up as many positions that he lost initially. Although, that's one more right there, because Kevin Hamann just ran out of fuel, and he said so over the radio right at the very end. He falls to 12th.
Well, you mentioned there with that extra lap, well, maybe perceived extra lap, maybe he wasn't expecting it, maybe just underfueled anyway, but it's cost a place or two there. I think only one place actually in the end, but there you go. That's a shame right at the very end.
Yeah, one car got by him. That's frustrating. And Daniel Harmon was ahead of it all, taking the victory over Carbone Jr. in the second spot. Adam Gerling in third. Then it's Lee Binkley in P4, followed by Curtis Crummell in the fifth position. Mike Sackstein with a P6 over Joseph Evers in seventh. Dennis Lynn was P8. Sheldon Zaharachuk getting back up to ninth in the end. And Tim Thornton rounds out your top 10. Trollitt gets one right at the very end for 11th. Kevin Hamann losing one due to fuel at 12th. Dave Douglas was 13th, and Anthony DiVincenzo with an amazing run up the order there to 14th spot. Caleb Tolar was P15, and Dan Carlin was 16th. Christian Braun, last one on the lead lap, and 17th after it looked like he could have maybe had a podium today. Ankerberg Zahn was 18th, Ed Trippett 19th, and Dom Bernakis was 20th. Then it was Michael Anneman in 21st, as Randy Lervold finished 22nd behind him. I believe both of them wound up with penalties at some point that race. Hales was 27th, and Johan Nye 24th. Nick Francis in P25. Christopher Costas was 26th today, followed by Philip Ramey, who seemed to really struggle at this track. He was 27th. Walter Tilson 28th, and Antonio Da Silva 29th. Peter Yerxa eventually came home in 30th after starting from the pits. Ryan Mulady was 31st, and Daniel Corbett rounded out the field in 32nd spot. I think we've got Dan Harmon ready to talk to us about how this race went for him. And Dan, first I got to ask, there was a few incidents we saw at the very end where it seemed like lap cars looked a little sketchy in front of you. Did that cause a bit of concern?
Yeah, I think just like Long Beach, lap traffic's always a challenge. So I was trying to be really cautious and wait for them to either verbally communicate for me to go by or to kind of signal with their car position. But yeah, a couple of those were a little sketchy.
A 19-second gap, you could pretty much just call this 20 seconds that she finished ahead of P2. That is amazing pace. What's the trick to finding speed here?
You know, I put quite a bit of time into practicing, spent some time with Blake Townend, getting some coaching and some lessons and some tips, some work on the setup, and yeah, just putting in time, seat time to figure out the track, to figure out the flow and do my best.
Well, how did you enjoy it? Is this a track that you'd put high up? Because I know me personally, I don't like driving it. The races are entertaining. What are your feelings?
To be honest, it's not on the top of the list for me for this season, but it's not on the bottom of the list either. I think there are certain corners that are really fun. There's also some corners that are really challenging, which when I get them right, then I push it higher on the list. And when I get them wrong, it takes them down the list.
I can understand that feeling, but you did an amazing job today. Great race and wonderful win.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Shout out to PCA and to Blake and to all the guys at RaceSpot.
That was Daniel Harmon, your winner. And he was followed home by Anthony Carbone Jr. I believe Ewan has caught up with him.
Yeah, Anthony, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on second place. I mean, how does it feel to finish in second tonight in a field where you've beaten the next best by nearly 25 seconds, but you're nearly 20 seconds off the race win as well? How do the emotions stack up when you look at the results tonight?
So I'm very happy with my result. Throughout the week, I was practicing, and I really couldn't crack getting consistently into the 33s or even low 34s. I just got to thank, Blake Townend again. He took a look at my data, gave me a couple of things and to work on, and came home and just put it to rest. I mean, Adam, was right behind me, and everybody in the race in the front there was pushing as much, and we hit some lap traffic, so kind of hurt a couple of people. But overall, I'm very happy with the race.
Talk to us a little bit about this this season as a whole. This is your best result of the season now. This second place finish tonight from Oulton Park. Was this a circuit you were particularly looking forward to, that you knew you were going to go well at, or do you hope this is maybe a turning point for your fortunes this season?
Definitely not a circuit I was looking forward to, I'll be honest with you. But I had a little bad luck in Long Beach, really couldn't put it together there, and I was just looking for a top 10 and then clipped the wall at the end. So I was very happy with my race here. Just trying to stay consistently in that tie 5. Daniel's, really running away with the class this year, and he deserves it. He's driving outstanding. But, we're just going to keep plugging away, keep pushing, and keep looking for these top 5 finishes.
Well, congrats on getting the second place tonight, Anthony, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thanks very much. That is Anthony Coburn Jr. Best result with the season with the second place tonight.
And then behind them was Adam Gerling, who definitely had an experience that we were entertained by as he made 4 passes essentially in just a couple corners. Adam, talk about the incident heading through Druids and what your perspective was like as it unfolded in front of you.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bit of a blur at the time, but I did see, I saw a couple of cars make contact. There was a third car involved. I slowed down, hit the brakes, and just looked to see if there was a safe gap to go through. And lucky enough to find that. There was another car running with damage for a little bit, and then all of a sudden I was in clear air.
How do you feel about those sorts of races? Because we were kind of discussing, that you got to be in the right position when those things happen. And that is how we felt you were in this one, that you definitely earned this third place. But what kind of emotions do you get when you find yourself inheriting that good of a spot?
Yeah, I was lucky, and I'm sorry for the other drivers. It was unlucky for them. It could have been me very easily in the middle of the pack. A car could have spun a different way. I could have ended up in that incident. So I think there's definitely a little bit of luck in there. I was sitting back in 7th, and frankly wondering how I was going to get past anyone on that track. We were in the in a little group there for a while, but it's a very tough track to pass on. So as I say, very fortunate for me. I'm sorry for the other drivers that their race was over.
Now, how do you feel about Suzuka, one of the classic Japanese tracks, often considered a driver's track? Do you think you'll be strong there?
Well, I love the track. I've always enjoyed racing in the past. It's been a few seasons since I've been there with PCA. I think the weather is potentially going to make it very, very interesting. It'll be a very different kind of race. Definitely one to think about and practice in advance.
Yeah, I understand there's going to be a little bit of moisture on the circuit, but best of luck with that. And again, awesome job today with the top 3.
Thank you. Thanks to the broadcast team, and thanks to all the PCA sim racing team that make this possible.
That was Adam Gerling in the 249, taking 3rd today, which is going to now take us out, as we mentioned, Suzuka International Racing Course. That is your next round on March 25th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. But we're not headed to Japan quite yet, because tomorrow night it's going to be the challenge class for our last race at Oulton Park. So make sure and tune in for that one. A big thank you goes to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ramiro and Ewan. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Exciting.
celebrations are felt beyond words. No one connects you to the ones you love like Princess. Princess Cruises. Book now.